You know what?
What?
I still don't know how to feel about this movie.
I thought we decided when we were doing the show.
I know, but I'm waffling.
It is a tangled mess of yarn.
It is
To unravel these feelings. It's a yarn ball of emotion.
I have a lot of I do. I have a lot of feelings about this movie, and they're conflicted feelings.
Yes,
but I mean, overall, there are a lot of lessons to be learned.
There are. We talk about some stuff in detail.
Mm-hmm.
It does end up being a very short summation of the movie, our shortest yet.
This is true.
I mean, the only thing shorter was like the independent summations of short films when we did the short film episode.
Ooh, you know what?
Mm.
One thing that I meant to mention in the podcast that we didn't mention was that I like when you give an AI an accent. I didn't think I would like it because the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, okay. But then as time went on, it grew on me.
You know, I get it because I don't want to get into the whole thing because this is just an intro, but the AI computer here did remind me a little bit of Data on how the humanization aspect, like Data from Star Trek, was, you could tell because he didn't speak with contractions.
Right.
And way back, you couldn't get computers to pronounce contractions.
Right.
Right. When they first did like text to speech, it had to be plain words.
Yes.
Because that was how the algorithm worked. And if you did a contraction with an apostrophe or something, it just, either skipped it or looped.
Yeah.
Can apostrophe T.
Right.
Can apostrophe T, like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it because the whole point of bringing that kind of thing into our lives as a dependable, like, crew member, whatever, you have to have those humanization pieces.
And I did like it. So
okay, cool.
That's my bit there.
All right. Well, how about we get into this movie so we can let them know what's going on?
Let me think. Yeah, okay, let's do it.
All right, we're off. Hey, B-Siders. Welcome to another episode of Bravo for the B-Side. This is Jim.
And this is Danny.
Yeah, see, you had to stop so you could announce yourself. And we have yet another movie this week.
What?
I know, it's crazy.
That's what we do, though.
Yeah. There are more movies than we have years left to do this podcast.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you think about it.
Well, it is. And I mean, they're always making more. And
we're pretty genre specific on things that we do. Like, we don't get into like romance movies.
Not typically.
And the category of indie and B films, you would think that would narrow it down. But anybody who's a fan of these kinds of things knows that those greatly outnumber the A movies.
Yeah, them studio films.
Them studio
films.
Yeah. So we do have one this week that is going to be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, we did it a little differently this week, where we did not watch it simultaneously.
Right. And we're also recording way off base. Just things have transpired once again to screw with the schedule. So we are unable to sit and watch a movie together in time for the recording.
Right.
Because so you watched it one night and I had to watch it the next. And yeah, so that was a little different. We didn't get to share. This will be the first time we share some feels about what's going on.
We briefly did, but we didn't get into it like we usually do. And then the other interesting thing is that as we are recording this, we're doing it, squeezing it into a time where the child is at a volleyball tournament.
Yeah.
So,
and we would be there watching the tournament, but
right. We're not allowed to.
Yeah, school district restrictions. There's no spectators allowed, and they're not doing a Zoom thing. They tried last week.
That was a disaster.
Well, the Zoom was set up for January 1st, 2099 at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
Which wasn't even, obviously close. So we get the link and it's like, this isn't ready yet.
Yeah.
Fuck. Anyway, so the news this week, terrible accident.
Yeah.
On the set of
Rust.
Yep, an Alec Baldwin film.
Yeah. So we're recording this on October 23rd as the crow flies.
There you go.
But
the crow flies.
It'll come out in November. So, I mean, I'm sure more will be known about the situation when this comes out, but what we know now.
Right. No matter what, it's a tragic thing.
Yeah.
This wonderful woman who's a wife and mother, 42 years old, had done a late in life, this is what I want to do. Right? She only fairly recently graduated from, I had the name of the school, film school, basically.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And, just hit the bricks running and got recognition, and everyone was like, this right here, she's going to be the next big thing. Just needs to, get in there a little more and get the opportunities. But she was brilliant. I mean, people were just like, directors who worked with her are like, oh, man, she was going to be it. So that's terrible. I mean, well, any loss of life is terrible, know. But it just compounds the tragedy. And for just something so stupid, know,
as a hot gun on the set.
Right. And I have always, and this isn't like armchair quarterbacking the thing, I have always wondered why, after so many accidents, there's been so many over the years. We lost Brandon Lee because there was something in the barrel of a gun that when a blank fired propelled that as if it were the bullet, and shot him in the chest and killed him on the set. Why do we need these? I understand back in the old days, we didn't have the sophistication of computer imagery to add muzzle flashes and stuff in a film. But there were ways to do it, and it would have been difficult and laborious and stuff. But the thing I've always wondered is, why use real guns? You could make a mock-up where the barrel is actually, you couldn't put anything in it. Right. You could make nobody analyzes a gun to that fucking detail in a movie. And if they do, then your movie sucks because people are looking for something to do. Like, I'm going to analyze this gun while it's on the screen.
Yeah. That was when I worked for the Murder Mystery Dinner Theater Company. That I did for a little while.
Yeah.
Fun Saturdays, those were. We used a prop gun in those performances, and it was a small revolver, but it wasn't a real gun. Right. It looked and felt like a real gun. Very heavy, very realistic, which is funny because no one actually saw the gun itself. The whole point of it was to hear the gunfire.
The pop, yeah.
Which you could just do with a sound machine.
Right.
But the ammunition that went into it were essentially sophisticated versions of like poppets.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. I mean, it's Hollywood. They make entire cities. They build the unimaginable. They make it imaginable and tangible. Why they couldn't have a manufacturing center that makes guns as props that could not in any way, shape, or form carry a live bullet. They could even make the damn ammunition, the blanks, tailored to those weapons and put a grid system in the barrel, right? where if there was some sort of small projectile in there, it would hit that.
Right.
You know, a lot of different things could have, you know, woulda, shoulda, coulda. But out of this, when I was reading up on it, the showrunner for The Rookie said they are done. They're removing everything from the prop room that's a gun, and they're going to go to airsoft guns, and they're going to use computers to add the muzzle flashes. And I believe the quote was, "Any risk is too much risk."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I hope people, listeners, anyone with any kind of oomph in the industry, or even in a place to be heard by the industry.
Yeah.
Let's do away with this. Let's get rid of all actual weapons on sets. Let's just do it. There are ways, you know, we don't need it.
No.
We don't need it. Actors, well, the whole crew, I mean, everyone's at risk, really. But actors are increasingly being asked to do more and more to show their worth. And I don't think that's right. We have stunt people who go through extensive training, and even they get hurt and killed with that training. So let's take somebody whose job it is to pretend to be somebody and then start, you know, pushing them to do more and more dangerous things. I'm going to hang you off a wire on the edge of this cliff, you know, for the realism. And
upsetting.
Yeah. You know, Vic Morrow and 2 small children were killed because they needed to have a live helicopter for the Twilight Zone movie.
Right.
And a set explosion. You know, real quick lesson in physics. When you have intense heat, it changes the molecular density of the oxygen. That density change in oxygen inhibits the ability of helicopter blades to cut through the air and generate the proper amount of lift. There's not enough substance there to work with. In a second, the explosion, helicopter was close to it. The air changed, the helicopter changed orientation and then crashed. And the blades just crashed down on Vic Morrow and those 2 kids. And it was a huge to-do.
Well,
you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, since then, people don't even probably know what I'm talking about, which is sad. But anyway, I you know, I don't want to spend like a whole lot of time on this because we're not here to.
I think, I mean, a good way to sum it up is like no corners should ever be cut for safety.
Right. And well, I just want to say, I wanted to say for like indie filmmakers, you can't hire stuntmen. We get it.
Yeah.
Right. You're doing a low budget thing. Be ever more conscious of stuff. Like we were talking to Pete Marcy and the guys.
They were talking about that van scene.
Well, all the scenes where they're like throwing people through closet doors and stuff.
Right.
And then like afterwards, they're like, you know, maybe we should have worked on that a little bit before we did it. And it sounds funny and stuff at the time. And I'm not disparaging.
Well, it's only funny because no one got seriously hurt. Right.
Right. And that's kind of it. You know, until something happens, it's just a ha 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 funny thing. And we get it. I mean, that's, you got to do what you've got to do. But you know what? Let's do it smarter and safer.
Yeah.
Because you know what? No work of art is ever worth somebody's life.
No.
It just isn't. You know, me personally, I think when something like this happens on a set, you're done. Burn the script, trash the film, move on. This thing never happened. We're not going to profit off of this, you know. But that's me as a human being. You know, the suits, they're just like, well, how can we get around this kind of thing? Anyway. So, yeah, you know, say prayers for this. I mean, it's going to be 2 weeks, you know, when you hear it, it's not going to cause the family's not going to be hurting any less.
Right.
Right. So, let's just remember this and all the other incidents and maybe take this forward in a safer way. Do some influencing. Okay.
All right.
Now, we have a movie.
It is a movie.
And going into this, I'm still undecided. I think it'll happen.
I think it'll happen as we go and talk about it because we usually decide that when we talk to each other about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you about this movie?
I want you to tell us about this movie.
It's called Astro Loco. It was made in 2021, or released in 2021. Written and directed by Aaron McJames, starring David Argue, Haley Dallimore, and Frank Handrum. Not rated. It is an indie movie, and I couldn't find a budget. But here is the log line as it appears on IMDb.
Of course.
An inquisitive spaceship computer tasked with overseeing a safe voyage must cultivate a deeper sense of humanity in order to be effective amid the spread of cabin fever.
Okay, so I'm going to just start right there. That is not what I got.
No.
At all.
Not even
watching this movie.
A little bit. It makes it sound like it's about the computer.
It makes it sound like a bunch of things, like cabin fever. We've seen that where we've had...
Yeah, it's not cabin fever.
Yeah, we've had crews go delusional and stir crazy and stuff, and then some go psychopathic. And that is not what goes on. I mean... okay, well, should I bring us in?
Yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the year 2074.
Welcome to the future.
Wow. The vessel, now, and this is the thing. I thought it was the Araya.
Yeah.
But then they keep talking about Odyssey. Get back to the Odyssey. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Okay, later on. Yeah, later on.
Okay.
Which kind of fits in some things I want to talk about. So right away, folks, I'm just going to give you a whole big bucket. I have no fucking clue. Let's just go with what we've got. So the vessel Araya is a rare minerals mining outfit. As it's flying around Jupiter, we have some jazzy music. We get some credits. The renderings. Now, I want to say this.
Mm-hmm.
The renderings of Jupiter and the ship are really, really well done.
Yeah.
Okay. And before we get any further, it immediately reminded me of Space Trucker Bruce.
Yes.
Okay. Only better because this is many years later.
Right.
Folks, remember Space Trucker Bruce, there was not a lot of stuff to work with.
No.
Anton did great. So this is like the next evolution, but they would hold up. So anyway, I was just admiring, man, that is really well done. It's not just Jupiter and the ship. There's the moons and debris.
Callisto and...
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So the crew are playing some kind of game.
Yeah,
and
it's a very complex game.
I don't think it's an actual game of the future. I think they've been on this ship a long time, and they've got everything. They've got cards, they've got chess, they've got checkers and chips and dice. It's all kinds of weird shit going on.
Yeah, it's some combobulation of many games that I think it's like they're Charty McDunnis.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought. So all of a sudden the captain stands on the table and he's doing a team building exercise, and he's doing a trust fall. And there's quite a mix of people here. But he falls back and no one catches him. He's a bit pissed off. We have Sebastian, who's this heavyset stoner. Lucien, who I just call Shrink.
Sure.
Right? He's an intellectual, and he's the psychologist. And Sasha, who is the doctor, and I believe at this point, I think she thinks she's Russian. And that's all we get, for names right now. So the ship talks, which is, fine. It has a Southern Texas type accent.
Yeah. A light Texan accent.
Yeah. Shrink is chatting with it, trying to get it to read a Rorschach test. And the computer says it sees a cockroach. Next one, a dead cockroach. I said Sasha. It's Dasha.
Yeah, Dasha. Their names change throughout the film, which I think is weird because the captain was first like Gabe, and then Ott, and then Odd.
And then Odd, yeah. Okay.
And then, Sasha, then Tasha, then Dasha, then Dash.
Sexy, big-titted, blonde cast member. Well, let's just call it what it is, right?
You just call her a Russian lady.
But, well, that's what they set her up as. I mean, this is the whole thing is, she's all cleavage in this thing. So she is complaining about the food. The pilot, who I didn't get her name to this point, is a woman. She sounds Texan as well.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to hate being on the ship. Oh, her name is Rex.
Yes.
That finally comes up. And the computer's name is Hatfield.
Yeah.
Now, Hatfield is taking a meditation lesson from Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
The captain is going for a spacewalk. The spacesuits are like kigurumis.
Yeah.
His is a tiger. I love these suits.
I do too. I think they're delightful.
The spacewalk is a little telling of the effects of budget, because this is what exactly reminded me of Space Trucker Bruce, in that you have all this rendered stuff and then him coming out of the hatch, jetting across the void, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can clearly tell.
Yes.
But I didn't think anything bad of it. I just thought, all right, where's he going? He seems to be replacing a part. Looks like a small coffee can stuck to a plate. That's exactly what it looked like to me. And then, at this point, the captain is odd. He sees something and says, "I must enter." Then he's inside the ship, like waking up. He's had some kind of revelation. And at dinner, he tells everyone they're great. So it's going into this whole big positivity thing. Apparently, he's been in space for 2 years. Shrink is wearing a tie, but no shirt.
Okay.
As they're sitting around, the captain's going on about being the best that you can be with positive thinking.
Yeah, he's like manically happy after his spacewalk where he saw that glowing meteor.
Yeah.
And was like hypnotized or something by it.
And then we get people going on about cultures that believe if you consume an animal, you get its traits or strength. And then the captain, I wrote the captain attacks Sebastian, but I think he attacks the shrink, right? Well, the captain attacks somebody.
It's Sebastian.
Okay, for Sebastian. Okay.
It's Sebastian, yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the whole movie, folks. There's more.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's attacking Sebastian. Rex, the pilot, has to restrain him. And now, like, their whole ship is glowing in the same way this meteor that he saw outside was glowing.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a little bit earlier watched a video from Earth that was like talking about a fuel shortage. And the captain thinks the company is going to abandon them out there for this mining operation.
Well, yeah, it was like a corporate video message.
Yeah. And he had sent a response back calling the guy a husk cook or something.
I don't know.
And then they get another video back from the company that says the company's going to scrap the project and fire them all. And Odd is like not happy anymore. He's mad.
Yeah.
And then we have this really weird scene where Rex is teaching Lucian to dance. And he's like really excited about it.
Yeah. They're in some recreation room.
Right.
Right. And this was another spot that didn't match up for me effects wise. You can tell the whole thing was rendered and then done on green screen, and they're just, standing in a green room. And this is like the hardest thing. The feet don't ever quite match the angle of the floor.
No, they don't.
Right. So it's literally like, just throwing something up on the background, standing in front of it and not having that 3-dimensional contact.
Right. And then she like kisses him and smacks him. And I'm not sure what all that was about. And then we have the whole crew watching videos that came in from their families.
Yes.
So, you get these family videos, and then Sebastian's family comes up and he's like, those aren't my parents.
Yeah. Well, there was some complaining during the videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are they so short? And Odd is like, they're so heavily edited.
Right.
And then, these two Japanese people come on, and Sebastian's like, those aren't my parents.
Right. And then Odd makes a comment about how Zeus, as in like the Greek god Zeus, is spying on them.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not really sure where this is going. And then they're playing their weird game again, which I think is called like Possession or something.
I didn't catch it.
They do call it something. And now they have integrated some of the food that they made earlier in the film. There are these little buns with burnt smiley faces on them.
Yeah.
And they made little spider straw legs, and those are somehow incorporated into the game now. And they're debating about whether the messages from their families were fake. And Hetfield, the robot, chips in that they're real. They're real messages.
Uh-huh.
And then Odd loses his shit and jumps up on the table and starts stomping on the smiley buns and does this rant. And Rex pulls him down, and Hetfield is trying to tell them all to calm down. And then Odd goes unhinged, and he's like, you're all going to die. And he's literally foaming at the mouth.
Yeah. Well, what prompted it was the redundancy packages.
Oh, sure.
Because in the corporate message is like, you're all going to get redundancy packages, but it's going to be based on performance.
Right.
So Odd, for some reason, really upset by that. And it just brewed until that point. I thought it was like, that's so many other things to worry about, man.
Yeah. So Rex locks Odd in a closet, which they later say is a brig, but I was like, that was clearly a storage closet.
I absolutely wrote, locked him in a janitor's closet.
Yeah.
Because that's what was in there. Mops and brooms and buckets and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and later they're like, oh, we locked him in the brig. And I was like, buddy, that's not a brig.
Yeah.
That's a cleaning closet.
Sure thing, man.
So now Rex, as the pilot, is the acting commanding officer. And she takes Sebastian with her to record a video to send to the company, telling them, what's going on with Odd and whatever. It's a silly video with them demanding higher pay and lots of perks and stuff.
Yeah. See, I don't want to say anything because it'd be a spoiler. Let me, I don't have anything to write with. So let's see if we can remember to come back to this point.
Okay.
At the end.
Sure.
About this message.
I could just highlight it.
I could do that too.
Yeah. Why don't you just highlight it? Because you're the one who wants to talk about it. So then Hetfield voices over, and he suggests some downtime for the crew. They've been going through a lot lately, and invites them to a party that he has made for them.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very sad party. And those smiley face buns are on the table at the party. I don't know how many of these smiley face buns there are on this ship, but it seems like they have an endless supply of them.
Yeah.
And Hetfield advises them against eating the smiley face buns because Odd has put experimental chemicals in them.
Was it Odd or Sebastian?
Odd.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was Sebastian because he's like the clinical stoner.
No, I think he says Odd did it, which is weird because it wasn't Odd who made them earlier. It was Dash or Dasha or Russian lady.
Yeah.
And they ignore him completely and do some toasts. And then Hetfield does a toast too. And I want to say we've kind of breezed past Hetfield a lot in our coverage so far of this.
Yeah.
But Hetfield, throughout this kind of whole thing, has been really attempting to be more human.
Yes.
Right? He has Sebastian teach him meditation. He talks to Rex about how she like intuits
gut
stuff,
feelings,
hunches.
Yeah.
And he talks to Lucian about, you know, like thought processes and
he's really he does all these little the thing is they're just little like quick 10 20 second things, and then the whole rest of the scene takes off and goes far away from it. But yeah, Hatfield he's really working to understand the human condition.
Yeah. So he does a toast too, and it's all about how much he loves them. And then they ask Hetfield if he is a god, which is kind of weird. And then some alarms go off, and Rex goes to investigate. And there is suddenly a free-floating ship in front of them that looks identical to their ship.
Yep. So the shrink ends up saying it's them.
From the future.
But in the future. Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, not from the future. That was the thing.
Because in the future.
I rewound it a few seconds to make sure I got that right. But, you know, that's us, but in the future. Okay. Hatfield says it could be another spacecraft. Just another spacecraft. And then they get this Mayday message that is fucking weird.
Right? And Hetfield listened to it earlier solo.
Yeah.
And then rerouted them.
Yeah. Rex, and that's where Rex says they're way off course. She asks Hatfield if it changed course, and then there's no response from Hatfield.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know what's going on. Rex is bleeding from the ears and nose.
Right.
All I wrote was, what?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. They're also mad at Hetfield now.
Oh, yeah, they're furious at Hatfield. I mean, everything's just gone fucking sideways on this now. Rex and Dasha go out on a spacewalk. One's a bunny, one's a tiger.
Yeah.
Rex still has a bloody nose. They get into this other ship. They find skeletons. And then they find a hidden compartment that has a giant insect in it. Then they end up going back to their ship. Then there's some gurgling on the way back. And Rex says, "You assholes do not belong here," and attacks Dasha. And Dasha just like shoves her, sends her floating away into space.
Yeah.
And the last time we look at Rex, now she's got blood coming from her eyes too. Like, what is this?
Right.
So in the regular ship, they're moving a cabinet to see what's behind it, because the cabinet is in the same position as this secret chamber on the other ship.
On the other ship.
Right. Yeah. So let's pause a second.
I paused for thoughts here too.
So anybody who knows anything about ships, at least one person on that ship knows it inside and out, backwards and forwards. Every square inch is accounted for. They know the schematics. They know how it was built. They know all this stuff. So how, for 2 years, folks, that's like being locked in a fucking apartment for 2 years and then suddenly going, sweet Christ, there's another bedroom. 2 years later.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just behind this bookshelf here.
Yeah. What the holy hell? So I just thought, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So they move this cabinet, which, you know, is like a Home Depot, you know, just the kind of thing you put in your garage. And it's a secret compartment like on the other ship. So Shrink runs off and grabs a guitar as a weapon to climb in there. And then some fucking guy crawls out of this crawl space that's been hidden behind this thing. And it's corporate video message guy.
Yeah.
Apparently for the last 2 years, he's been hiding on the ship in that little place. He's there to see the mission through. Now, we do have questions like, you know, where did you go to the bathroom?
Right. You know, how did you eat?
Yeah. I wrote this like 4 times. This guy's been hiding in here for 2 years.
Well, yeah. And also, I found it just wild how chill this whole crew is being about everything.
Right? There's not a lot of sense of urgency.
No, they don't seem like massively upset. They're just like, weird, huh?
Yeah. And, well, and video message guy, right? He's there to see the mission through, and he goes to this whole big thing that makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever.
Is that where Sebastian is like, I don't know what you're doing here except explaining stuff badly?
Yes. And then the guy's like, hey, look, it was either this job or prison. And then Sebastian sidelines that conversation. Whoa, man, you're a criminal? What'd you do? Yeah. And corporate video message guy was involved in some sort of factory or lab accident that they never addressed.
Right.
It's like, well, do you remember the such and such in, 2065? No. Yeah. Well, good thing I didn't feel bad because neither do I. So turns out the other ship that they found never actually made it to Callisto, where it was supposed to be, where they were supposed to go. There was supposed to be a base camp for the mining operation.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't them from in the future or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't them. It was just the one ship.
Yeah.
And then they find out that the company had faked the landing footage in the building of the whole base camp thing. Never existed. Mm-hmm. And then he talks about how the other ship didn't have funding to go home. They pulled the funding.
Which is weird because...
Well, once you're in space, it doesn't fucking cost money.
Right. You already put all the money in.
Yeah, and the ship has got the fuel, right. Just point and shoot, basically.
They couldn't afford to... Who are they going to pay? What?
Yeah, I mean, AAA going to fucking go out there with like an emergency can of... I don't know. But anyway, and then at this point, I actually took the time to write, I am not at all following this. Hatfield keeps talking. Everyone keeps telling him to just, shut up and fuck off because they're pissed at him. Then we hear more gurgling sounds. Sebastian's crawling through some sort of crawl space. He's going to turn off Hatfield's higher functions.
Yeah, he's going to reboot him.
Yeah, and right here I put HAL 9000, anyone?
Right.
Yeah. Want to bring us home?
So, sure. So, yeah, Hatfield is freaking out and begging him not to do it. And Sebastian does it anyway. So then they're locking the company guy in the closet brig that they earlier locked Odd into. And as they open the door, there's a giant bug in there.
A bipedal bug, let's be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big bipedal carapace covered bug. And it attacks the company guy immediately.
Can we pause?
Yeah.
It looked great.
Oh yeah, it was super fun.
Let's say this was a practical effect, and yep, kudos.
It was schlock, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But it was awesome.
Yeah. It is what Astro Zombies should have been.
Yeah. Oh, Astro Zombies.
I know.
Oh man. So, obviously, I guess this is what Odd turned into. But here's the thing. So it attacks the company guy immediately. But this is what actually happens. They shove the company guy into the bug, and the bug jiggles. And then the guy turns around and his face is half gone.
Yes. and then they just close the door.
Yeah.
Like you do with all major problems.
Well,
I loved it because we're coming up on Halloween, so we're inundated with all the greats. Halloween's new Halloween Kills has just come out, so we got Michael Myers out there again. You think about, can you imagine in any one of these movies where they open a door and
Mike Myers is just
he's just standing there and he just stabs someone through the eyeball, and then they just shove him in with Mike Myers and shut the door,
and then
just act like nothing's going on,
right? Well, that's that. And Sebastian's talking about how he plans to freeze them. And I'm like, weird that you can freeze your broom closet, but okay.
Yeah.
So the remaining 3 crew are worried now that they're infected also. And Sebastian is like being very self-involved about this. Mm-hmm. Like he's the CEO now, right? Now that Rex is gone.
Yep, chain of command. He's the big guy.
The stoner's in charge. So then Dasha and Lucian secretly reboot Hetfield again to bring back his higher functions because they don't trust Sebastian. And also because Hetfield is the only one that they know for sure can't be infected by whatever is making everyone like go crazy and turn into bugs. Because he's a robot.
Yep.
And they ask him to pretend that he's in his like dumb mode when he talks to Sebastian.
Yeah.
And he agrees to this. So now Sebastian is being weird. He's bleeding from his nose and acting crazy.
Well, I started that out because I thought this is probably the most noteworthy bit. He's playing with the biscuits like they were dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And becomes very sexual very quick when they walk in on him.
Yeah. So they decide to lock him on the recreation deck. They kind of lure him there.
Yeah.
Because he's like, what were you guys doing? And why are you all sweaty? And they're like, we were playing badminton or something dumb.
Handball.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's a good idea. So they're going to lock him in there. And then, so they follow him and Lucian goes in with him and Dasha or whatever the fuck her name is, locks him in with Sebastian before she starts foaming at the mouth.
Yep. And her eyes turn red or bloodshot.
Yeah. So dun dun dun. And then Sebastian demands a game of squash with Lucian.
Yes, that's the best part. They actually end up fucking playing squash.
Right? So while they're playing, Sebastian is he's monologuing in a kind of crazy way.
Yeah.
About how there are these alien body snatchers from Jupiter or from Callisto and how they're protecting Jupiter from human filth. And I mean, it goes on for quite a while, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And then Sebastian changes into a bug and charges Lucian. But as he's doing that, he gets zapped somehow by Hetfield.
Yeah.
Who then kind of explains it in a pseudo-sciencey way that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So then Lucian is waking up. He's being woken up by Hetfield. And he's like covered in green goo.
All of the, well, Sebastian had that too when they found him. This like greenish, brownish, yellowish shit on his shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lucian's just like in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Hetfield, this is where I'm like, what? Hetfield tells Lucian that he's in a black hole pocket dimension and somehow Hetfield can still talk to him because of whatever he did to zap Sebastian. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
And he tells Lucian, I'm going to put you back on the ship. You have to lure the creature to attract the other one, the one that Dash turned into.
Yeah.
Right. To the trash compactor. And then somehow gets him out of this pocket dimension. And suddenly Lucian is roller skating through the ship away from the bug. And he manages to get into the compactor. And Hetfield is like, woohoo. And then Hetfield explains to Lucian that they can't go back to Earth.
Yeah. Well, and there's this whole thing that they're stuck in space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No one's coming. And Hatfield just very matter-of-factly says, well, I'm going to be up here for hundreds, maybe thousands of years till my solar batteries die out. You're going to be dead momentarily,
Yeah. You're pretty much dead already.
Yeah.
So what happens then is Lucian brings Hetfield's drive over to the other ship and introduces Hetfield to the other AI, Dorothy.
Yeah.
From that other ship. And then on the way back, Lucian is pretty much like, well, this is it for me. I think I'd like to die like this.
Yeah.
And Hetfield is trying to save him, and he does not succeed. And then we have Dorothy and Hetfield discussing their failure, and then about how they'll get to watch Jupiter change in their very long robot-y lifetimes.
Yeah, they're going to apparently orbit Jupiter till the end of time.
Yeah.
Or their orbit decays or something.
Or whatever.
Anyway.
That's it. The end.
That is Astro Loco. That is probably the shortest summation of a film, other than This World Won't Break, because we didn't finish the movie. So I want to jump back to the whole story thing.
Oh, sure.
Right, the computer or corporate video message guy.
Mm-hmm.
That whole explanation right there summarizes the entire plot stream of this whole film. It is incomprehensibly convoluted and just muddled with everything.
Yeah.
Now, let's start out with the positive stuff. We both agree it's got some, the effects are really, really good across the board.
Oh, yeah.
For this budget range, especially.
Top marks for a low budget sci-fi.
Right. The only way that they outdid Space Trucker Bruce, like I said, is just it's been years since then. So Blender has undergone many, versions, and greater capabilities and graphics have improved, and just all the stuff, as processing and everything. Computers advance, so does the tool set for the indie filmmaker. So that is the only reason why. If Anton had done it now, Space Trucker Bruce would have looked just like this, right? The other thing is the cinematography. This one does beat out Space Trucker Bruce, again, because it's like 7-8 years, right, of camera evolution, which is massive. I mean, look where we've come, right? Let's go back to 2014. I think Space Trucker Bruce is 2014.
I think so.
So let's go back to 2014. What was the iPhone version? What was the camera like? Were people even shooting films? Not really. Not on an iPhone.
Not on an iPhone. No.
Right? They were doing experimental films, but nobody would shoot a feed. Now, there's no reason not to. And we were talking about how DSLRs are the go-to. Every YouTuber uses one.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, these are the things.
Or they use an iPhone.
Yeah, or indie filmmakers are using them.
Yeah.
The dedicated movie camera. Let's say the camcorder. The camcorder is going to be fucking gone if it isn't already.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Because we have an old Philips that we got back in 2013.
Yeah.
They're handy and they work, but it's limited.
It is limited.
But it's not any more limited than the iPhone.
Well,
we moved from, we shot BF McGillicuddy with an iPad.
Yeah.
Moved to the iPhone just for a couple reasons. But there's no lenses. There's no. Right. So same thing with that. You were going to say?
Oh, I was just kind of agreeing. I mean, the handheld camcorder that, you used to use to do like family videos and whatever, that is dead.
Yeah. Now, dedicated movie cameras, we have 2 JVCs that were meant for sports recording.
Right.
They have high shutter speeds and everything. They don't have interchangeable lenses, though.
No.
Right. It's a set lens. You zoom and
I mean, they're
wide and tight. Button.
Great, but
yeah. but there's limitations on those as well. But I mean, some of the benefits of that is you can listen while you're recording.
Yeah.
You can hook, like we use a Rode shotgun mic for BF McGillicuddy. Yes. Now we can hook that into the JVCs and we can see the sound bars and everything and, you know, all that. And, you know, phones and tablets and stuff, they don't do that. But they're still, they're old now, the JVCs. But I mean, they still would be great. I just wanted to do BF and 4K. And these are stuck at, you know, HD. Let me talk about the Blackmagic, you know, and the Red cameras. I don't know that they're on their way out, but I don't think they're the top choice for indie filmmakers right now because they are way more expensive than a DSLR.
They are.
Right.
And you can get a DSLR that's pretty good for a, you know, decent price.
Well, for $1,000, you can get a DSLR and a couple of lenses and shoot a major motion picture with it. Boom. And you don't need all the fancy add-ons and stuff. And that's kind of one thing that bothers me is the pushing of all these ancillary, you know, fucking bits of technology. I mean, yeah, it would be nice to get an external screen.
Right.
You know, about the size of, you know, 12-inch, you know, tablet to see what you're fucking recording instead of those little, easy friend.
The little dinky.
Yeah, little dinky things, you know. You know, for movie making, that's kind of important. I get that.
Well, yeah, what's in your frame is.
But how many different screens do you need? How many different things do you need attached to that? And I can't help but think, I don't know that that's all technically necessary. I feel like those are all shortcuts for people who don't know how to do a great many things on a set. Because I know some of this stuff is dedicated to, you know, I can't remember what it's called. I just call it a LUT screen, where it shows you what you're shooting with filters applied already.
Oh, sure.
Right? Now, that kind of pisses me off because any director of photography would look at that and go, are you fucking kidding me? You should see it with your own fucking eyes.
Right.
And it always reminds me of Tron Legacy, where, you know, the director was like, I don't know about this. Because he walks in on the set like the arcade.
Okay.
Right? Where they go in and it's the video arcade. And he was really iffy about it. The director of photography is like, just wait till you see it on film. Just wait till you see it on film. Because the way you light shit live is no way it's going to turn out that way on film.
Well,
there's a way you have to do it to get the look you want on film.
Yeah.
You know, you can, like what we have right now in our little setup here. The light is out. We have this red light for ambience, right? And it can be any color. We just made it red today. But we couldn't shoot in here right now with the stuff to get this look.
No.
Right? Because there are physical limitations to physics.
Well, to how cameras and lenses and lenses.
Well, yeah, and that's physics. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to dive too deep into this whole thing, but I get the point of those screens that have the filters on. Because let's see, for example, you're shooting, you know, like day for night or dusk for night, or, you know, a higher lighting situation than what is going to actually come out in the final product.
Right.
A screen that kind of helps you visualize that as you're lighting it, you know what I mean, can be a helpful tool. But
I mean, I would say, okay, but as a photographer, got a bug in here. I thought I saw something in my peripheral. Little monster. As a photographer, I will always poo-poo that. If you know what you're doing, you already can see it. That's the thing.
Well, I get that, but like the people around you can't see it.
Well, they don't need to. But that's just it. They don't need to. You know, the crew doesn't need to. I mean, you know, light this, angle that.
Well, but the director does.
The directors should know. That's what kind of surprised me about Tron Legacy is the guy's freaking out. I'm like, have you never made a fucking movie? I mean, do you not know what goes on? You should. I think they teach you that. And if you didn't go to film school, I'm sure there's some books that reference it. Anyway, yeah, I don't want to get stuck on it. Bottom line is, again, Space Trucker Bruce would have looked just like this had the camera technology been available back then as it was today.
Yes.
Right. And when we were talking, I think we both agree today, there is no excuse for shitty video. None anymore. With the number of iPhones alone, fuck Android. I don't care what they do. I know the iPhone, but with the last 3 versions of the iPhone, it is purely professional level cinematography, and then
cinematic mode.
Yeah.
Right?
And the new cinematic mode. I mean, they're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot out. Cinematic mode is huge because, again, you don't have lenses.
Yeah.
And that's a good cameraman. That's what makes you the A-list cameraman as compared to shooting Pepto commercials.
I mean, just the ability to do focus shift.
Yeah.
On a camera phone.
Exactly. I mean, and it takes that precision and has moved it into a thing that doesn't have an apparatus for shifting. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, I guess that's the one thing I want to say is, it's no longer, I think, excusable or cute or adorable. Movies made in 2021 or beyond that look like
they were made in 1986.
Yeah. And don't do it and then say, well, it's the aesthetic, because we can tell.
Yeah.
It's like, as a photographer, I can tell when another photographer is out taking black and white photos or when just some amateur is taking photos and puts a black and white filter on them. There's a massive fucking difference. There's a language that is spoken in all of that comes very, clear. It says no or yes. So when you're setting your stuff up, folks, this is a good example of a film that, they didn't have a lot. Use the stuff that's available. You can get an iPhone, right? And if you're putting together a budget for a film, if you can't afford last year's model iPhone, then what are you going to use for a camera?
Right.
Right. Got to have something, if it means you don't eat during the day so that the rest of the crew can, then you don't eat. You're the filmmaker. If you got to take that budget money out and cut down the craft services bit, well, then don't eat the food. Feed them, decisions.
So this movie looks like our beloved Space Trucker Bruce visually. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the story,
here we go. Yeah.
It does fall behind a bit. I think I do want to say this movie feels like a real earnest effort.
It does.
And that makes it so that I don't want to be really harsh. Like, I don't want to knock it really hard. You know what I mean?
I don't. Well, so we had the conversation.
Yeah.
Is this just a bad movie? Is it so bad it's good movie? Is it a good movie that suffers a few more faults than normal?
Right.
Where does this fall? And neither of us could decide.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously there is an homage in this movie, right? There are a lot of homages to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Absolutely.
Dark Star.
Yes.
A lot of like the 50s schlock sci-fi stuff, they pay kind of homage to in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of love, I think, that went into this. But it does distinctly feel like they were desperately trying to accomplish something and just missed the mark on it.
Well, I was at the end, I was comparing it in my head to Blue World Order.
Sure, I get that.
All right. Too much.
Yeah.
Non-essential stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right. It's not enough of any one thing.
Well, that's just the thing. Like, one thing they could have done, put all the focus on these characters, right?
Yeah.
Who are they? What are their stories? They're cool. and interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know more about them.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to spend more time with them and kind of figure them out. I wanted to figure out their weird game. Right?
Yeah. Well, and everything came so abrupt. It came to an end so abruptly.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with Rex. Like, oh, really?
Now
that's it?
Okay. Weird.
And it just took a shove.
Yeah.
Huh? And she's not going to jet back?
Nope.
Wow. Okay.
Well, she was running out of fuel for her jet, so she was holding on to Dash. But regardless, it was kind of an anticlimactic ending for a character that was like really cool.
Yeah. And so let's talk about these aliens.
Sure.
I had no idea what you were fucking talking about when you were saying that he was talking about aliens. Maybe I just tuned out at that point.
Maybe.
A little bit. Because none of that, I feel like even if I had heard it, it wouldn't have made any fucking sense. It's no different than this guy crawling out of the fucking wall after 2 years of being in a little room, unseen. Oh my God. The story sucks.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
We went there.
The concept is good.
Yeah.
Right? But what makes the story suck is there's no A line.
Sure.
There's no thread. It's like this is happening, then this is happening, then this is happening. And they're not at all really tied together other than the company fucked up on the first ship. So they sent a second one and didn't want to tell anybody. And Hatfield is the Hell 9000. He's got conflicting orders. He's trying to do something, but then he wants to become more human, and it's a thing. But we never get into it enough. It's just shit that happens.
Yeah, we never get into any of it enough.
Right. And then we just move on to the next odd fucking thing that's going on.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the thing. I mean, you have to let your story and your characters breathe.
Well, it comes back to simplify.
Yeah.
Here's my advice.
I guess that's what I mean by let them breathe.
Yeah. This is what I would have done. If I had seen this script day one, would have said, okay, no, what's the one thing that this movie is about? One simple thing. I want one character, one course, no interactions. What is it?
Yeah.
And say it was, well, it's this alien race protecting Jupiter. Okay, so what I need you to do is red pen everything, start over. I want you to pick the character who's going to contact that race, and I want that race, and I want why. What are they afraid of? And I want you to write a story with no other characters in it. Right. Write me a script with one man, one alien, one problem. And then give that to me. And then I would say, okay, bring other people in, but don't change a single piece of what you have here. Add dialogue, alter things a little bit to add more people, but keep this fucking through line.
Right.
Then add some things, right? So there's a corporation who knew about this, and they're trying to, okay, well, can you fit it in? That is a laborious, it's not at all how you write a script.
Right.
Right. But I think it's a valuable exercise for folks who try to get $2,000. Blue World Order would have benefited from that a lot. What have you got? Guy with a daughter, tower that controls minds, and Billy Zane. Okay, so write me a script about just this guy, his daughter, this tower that controls minds, and Billy Zane. Sure. Nobody else. No other characters. Give me the through line, and then we'll add stuff in. Because some people can't see the forest through the trees.
Well, I mean, it's like, so here's, again, the log line for this movie. An inquisitive spaceship computer tasked with overseeing a safe voyage must cultivate a deeper sense of humanity in order to be effective amid the spread of cabin fever.
And it wasn't really cabin fever.
Well, no, but that aside.
Yeah.
This movie wasn't really about Hatfield.
No.
And it could, I would have been really interested. I mean, it would have been like a complete ripoff of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
If we're seeing this whole movie through Hetfield's eyes, right?
Yes.
And, having the story be about him trying to figure out how he handles this situation.
Yes.
That he knows more about than the crew knows about. That, he's trying to save them, but all of these terrible things keep happening and he's kind of powerless to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's compelling. Right?
Yeah. A lot of different ways this could have gone.
Yeah.
And I guess, so a lot of I went off before about let's get rid of this. Enough of the fucking AI runaway stuff. We were talking about arcade.
Sure.
It was a shit concept then. It's still a shit concept now. Let's move past it.
Murderous AI.
Yeah. But I like the whole evolutionary AI thing. And I like the dilemma, the concept of an AI getting, computer getting caught in a dilemma, an endless loop, maybe an unbreakable loop, right? Where it has to make this decision that can't be made on logic.
Right.
It's not because logic doesn't apply to every single thing.
Right.
Right. I'm all for that kind of stuff because I'm a firm believer that there will never, ever be a passable AI for a human.
Because I think as humans, we have a hard time making decisions that are not based on logic.
Well, because we define logic.
Yeah.
And our definitions of logic shift over time.
Sure.
Right? So how can you create a thing, a computer, right, that is based on logic? That's why they call it a logic board. That's what a system board is, a logic board. And then try to teach it what logic is. By something that we don't have a firm grip on, and it only can compute in ones and zeros, and then try to assemble more ones and zeros to patch in. It's crazy. But anyway, I would have been really interested in that, and I would be okay with that, saying, oh, well, that's a HAL 9000 thing.
Right. Except, compassion rather than psychopathy.
Right. But, we've talked about there's only how many stories?
Right.
Ever. And everything else is just a fucking copy of everything that's come before for the last 6,000-7,000 years.
Yeah.
But that works if the rest of your story it enthralls the viewer.
Yeah.
This is the problem. This was Blue World Order's problem. So many disjointed fucking things going on that you're starting to count, you're looking at your toes wondering, should I clip my nails? That's not a good sign in a movie. If your audience is thinking of anything other than what's happening, your story sucks. It's not giving anything. And you need to fix that,
Yeah. If it isn't keeping you in, if it isn't pulling you into the story, it's not a good story.
Well, no, and we're going to pick things apart like, oh, well, they're just ripping off HAL 9000.
Right.
And there's been a ton of movies who've done that. I just want to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first movie that's ripped off 2000.
And this isn't, and the whole HAL 9000 comparison is not a negative here. Right. But what it is an example of all those other movies. There were so many other things that kept us going, and the movie itself and the story was done the right way that you didn't have time to give a shit about that. Right? You're like, what's next? What's going on? Ooh, kind of thing. So, I'm just going to say it again. I'm just going to say it again. If you're the writer and director and everything on this film that you're making or writing, give it to somebody else to read.
Yeah.
So many people don't. I feel like that happened here.
I think that's probably true.
I wrote it. I'm directing it. Nobody else needs to tell me about it.
I know what my story is.
Yeah. I don't think you do, Aaron.
Oh, man. Okay. I have another thought.
Bring it.
I showed you the trailer for this. So I picked this movie and then I watched it and then you watched it later.
Yeah.
And I picked it based on the trailer because the trailer was kind of wild.
Yeah.
And fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
And curious looking. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like a low budget sci-fi thriller kind of feel.
Right.
This movie was not a thriller.
That is not what happened.
I was bait and switched.
Yeah.
And I don't like when that happens. Your trailer is just as important as your movie because it's what sells people on your movie. And if they feel like they got bait and switched, then you did a bad trailer.
Right. That's a whole separate thing that we've talked about, but we can't get fully into on this podcast, is the art of making a trailer. If you truly don't know what the hell you're doing, there are people, gig workers, who will cut a trailer.
There are people who are really good at making trailers and really not good at making other things.
Right.
Right?
That's their whole thing. So I said, gig workers, that's what they do. It's like, I make trailers because I'm fucking good at it.
Yeah.
And they are. Utilize them.
Yeah.
Right? It's worth it because, oh shit, last thing you want is to present your movie in a passable trailer, and then people watch the movie and it's like, well, that's not at all what I expected from the trailer.
Yeah.
Then they're going to start shitting on your film. Okay. You know what? You can't get that back. You can't buy back that negativity, but you can buy a good trailer. So if you got to do another round of fucking GoFundMe or a Kickstarter or whatever, do it. You know, I need $2,500 for this trailer. I don't think it costs that much because, you know, the gig workers,
I don't know.
that's a substantial now, because that's more than most people's budgets for indie films, or like half or a third.
Sure.
I mean, let's be fair, but let's just say you do need $2,500 and you feel like this is the next thing that's going to make Sundance shit itself and Telluride, the mountains collapse around it, you know, all that stuff. Well, that's worth $2,500 to get a good trailer. Do a separate campaign, wait a little longer, get the trailer out, and then, you know, release the film. So worth it.
Yeah. That
would be like reading a dust jacket on a book. The inside flap, there it is, sums up the book. And it sounds for all the world like, you know, Dr. Seuss, and, you know, he's having a problem and something's going to go on and some colorful thing in 1 and thing 5 are going to show up with the whoosy whatsy gobbledygook. And then 2 chapters in, right, it's like 50 Shades of Grey times 10. And, you know.
Wow, I was going to go with like Anna Karenina or
no,
Lolita.
I'm like, no, because that's the thing. A trailer could be so misleading. The stark difference of the expectations could be that drastic.
Sure.
And will put people in a very upset, negative mood.
Yeah.
You know, because in a movie, you don't have time to deal with confusion, to sort it out. Confusion usually just converts right to anger.
Yeah, it's not a hard switch.
Yeah. The mind's gonna be like, I don't want to think about this and sort it because I'm still trying to absorb it. So I'm just going to be pissed. Satisfied.
Right.
Now, I do want to say, though, with all the story faults, I loved some of the dialogue.
Oh, yeah. There was some really good dialogue.
Yeah.
Up in here.
Which, other than
snappy.
I will say, Mr. McJames does not know how to describe anything. Because I don't think it's by accident that every time a situation was trying to be described, it was a catastrophic fucking mess. So confusing and disjointed, right? Sure. It's unreal. But the interchanges between the characters were fun.
They were.
So the dialogue was good when the dialogue was allowed to rest on its own, you know.
To be natural dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the actors, every single one of them in here did a magnificent job.
Yeah.
Right?
They did.
You know, we say we don't want to fault people for, you know, getting all their friends and family to do it. But I mean, let's be honest. Okay. Someone who goes on camera, oh my goodness, what is that? Okay. That is a bad performance. I don't care who they are. I don't care how endearing the whole project is. That blows. That sucks ass.
We can't bury Shelley. She's our friend.
Oh my God. I can't believe you dug that out of the vault. That was awesome. These people they know their craft.
Yeah.
Right. And I looked all these people up. Almost none of them have done anything since.
David Argue did some stuff well before this.
A couple of them did a movie before this, but nothing in between, and nothing going. I mean, and this is, relatively new, but they don't have lengthy, half of them didn't even have pictures, right? They're just an IMDb entry. And I looked elsewhere too, but I mean, hey, that's fine. That's fine. They can all rest knowing that they did really well. And Sebastian, especially as the stoner, right, wasn't this far out Cheech and Chong trope kind of thing.
Right.
Right. He's just a guy. Every time you see him on screen, every 10 seconds, he's puffing something.
Yeah.
Right.
He's vaping.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say, if you couldn't find anything they did after this, it's because this was just released this year.
Well, it was released this year, but
not currently working on other stuff in production.
Right. Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. Because we've seen a lot of things that we've covered that have just come out, but then they go to their IMDb page and they got like 8 things, in production, already in post-production.
Right.
But anyway, so these aren't like highbrow, top tier actors, but they did well. It was enjoyable to watch. None of them strained the viewing.
No, they were fun to watch. I enjoyed them.
That's what made it more frustrating, what you were talking about. I wanted to know these people.
Yeah.
I wanted to get more invested. I mean, there's always like the one person in these kinds of movies who's fucking killed right away.
Sure.
Right. And, that's fine. Usually they're the most ridiculous, outwardly, stereotype of one kind.
It would have been fine for it to be the captain like it was. Odd.
Yeah. I mean, someone has to go. Apparently. Yeah. So, he's just as good as anyone else. But it was fun watching and listening to them. And I think the actors, their performances were only not even brought down, tarnished by the lack of direction in the story.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Because everything else, I don't know who did the effects work. Did Aaron McJames do it himself? Did he work with people? Kudos. Top honors for all of it. Yeah.
The music.
Yeah.
Extremely cheesy, but really fun.
Yes.
It was very like Boondocks Jukebox.
Yep.
Kind of music. That's the genre, I guess.
Sure. I love it. That fits.
Yeah.
Yeah. The technical aspects. So some of the stuff was sets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some of it was green screen.
Some of it was like a combination.
Yeah. Now the green screen, the full green screen, like I said, we could tell that shit is hard to do. I mean, they have very expensive pieces of technology to map somebody onto a green screen correctly. Because again, the feet, just the way the feet stands, and because it's 3 dimensions, the way the floor comes at you, the angle's different. So they look like they're kind of stand hovering
right
on the floor or like leaning.
And then it cuts so it's just like above their chests.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this is ridiculous. Let's just zoom in on them.
But anyway, we've talked about it. If you want to add some effects, spend some time, master the software Blender. That's for Windows and for Mac, and I think for Linux as well. I've toyed with it because Anton, we talked about it, and I downloaded it. But here we are a couple of years later, and I still don't know much more about it than when I first opened it because I don't need it for anything right now. The whole time thing. But if you want to make especially like a space adventure or space film, sci-fi, turn to something like Blender and just
render all kinds of stuff in
design the fuck out of your sets.
Yeah.
On a computer, and then just green screen it.
Right.
Learn how to do green screen shading. That's it. And the keying and stuff was pretty good. Again, it's just the angles of the feet,
which are hard.
Yeah, when they show full head to toe, that is the hard part. But if you shoot them from like the ankles up, I would have never been able to make that observation.
Right.
Right. So I guess it depends. What does the shot actually call for? Does it need to be a full body?
Mm-hmm. Can
you get away with 3/4, knees and above?
Yeah.
Whatever. But anyway, a lot of good about this movie.
There is a lot of good about this movie. And I still, even after talking about it, I still want to like this movie a lot. Like, I really want to.
I'm going to call it a good movie that solely suffers from bad storytelling.
Okay.
Because everyone did a great job in this movie.
Yeah.
The effects were fantastic. There were moments of fun, but taken as a whole, they weren't cohesive enough to make it super entertaining.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But watch it, B-siders, and see what we mean.
Yeah, check it out. It's on Amazon Prime right now.
Is it on Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I got to change the thing. I don't think I didn't do a thing for this one yet because we're just now recording.
We're just right now.
Never mind.
Live. We're recording it right now. Live.
I know. For some reason, I thought I'd done the episode tag and it can be found on Tubi.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh no, I didn't because we haven't even fucking recorded the intro for this yet. Because we're still recording this.
This is an Amazon Prime one. Lately, it's been a lot of Tubi.
It has.
Yeah.
So that's kind of surprising because Amazon Prime or Amazon Video it's not great for these kinds of films.
It's been getting less impressive lately, I will say. But no, I think when I was looking for a movie, I went on there and then this popped up as recommended and I was like, I'll give it a go, and saw the trailer and I was like, that's a cool trailer, doing this one. And then I watched the movie and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to tell Jim about this movie tomorrow and I'm going to have to make him watch it. And now I feel bad. But I'm glad that you watched it.
Well, yeah. And I love when you told me you need to pick the next movie. I'm terrible at these things. And you're not. I mean, we've picked some stinkers together.
That's true.
We've both been bamboozled by either a trailer or we're like, ooh, this looks interesting enough just on the face value. Let's dive in, only to be like,
curses, bamboozled again.
Even for like films we're not doing for the show.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
Our kind of like, let's just meditative, chill, some sort of, we know it's going to be kind of nonsensical, whatever, particularly horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're watching Candy Corn right now.
Yeah. Which curiously enough,
it's not bad actually so far.
No, it's got, damn. So the guy who played Malachi.
Yeah.
In Children of the Corn, because we're watching it and I'm like,
a bunch of old horror movies.
Yeah, because I'm watching it and I'm like,
up in it.
I know this ginger from somewhere.
Wow.
Well, because he has a distinctive face. I mean, it's obviously decades later.
Right.
And then the secretary at the police station, I'm like, I fucking know that face too. Oh my God.
Yeah, we haven't finished it yet, but
she's put on like a little bit of weight over the decades. But other than that, her face hasn't the dimension. She looks just the same.
She got killed in Halloween.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? So we looked it up in Halloween, looked her up. I'm like, oh yeah, Halloween. I got it. She was the one who was laying in bed after sex. The one whose breasts we saw.
Right.
She was the boobs of Halloween because there were very few.
Right.
Yeah. And she was in there, Johnny, as Michael Myers was standing with a sheet over his head with glasses on it because he had killed the dude downstairs.
Yeah.
Which also made me think, a little bit of a segue here.
Okay.
In no other Halloween movie has he ever done anything like that.
It was very playful.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Thinking about it now, it is so out of place.
Yeah. It
right?
is.
It just it's fucking weird, but yeah, playful.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, that was the only time he ever.
And there isn't a playfulness to Michael Myers, like, at all.
There is not.
You know, I love movie killers with the playfulness to them. Like, they're some of my favorite slasher, villains.
Yeah. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about Halloween Kills.
I don't know.
But here's what I do love, the trailer.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
He breathes. He kills. He breathes. He kills. He breathes. He kills. I thought, I don't know if they meant this, but they have just mocked the entire legacy of Halloween, but in a spot on, no bullshit way.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's one of those weird things. Like how can you mock something so perfectly that it's actually fact?
Yeah.
Right? Because that is it. There's no mercy. There's even Voorhees, right? And Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
All those, he's got some kind of crazy shit going and, stages all these weird, Mike Myers just wants to get in and get it done.
Yeah. He doesn't play around.
Yeah.
Anyway. Fun stuff.
So back to this film. It's worth the watch. And if anything, you can actually get some good lessons out of it on the dialogue, the effects, the music. Like you said, it was cheesy.
Yeah, it was.
But it was appropriate.
I
right?
liked it.
It wasn't like, well, this is all I have.
Right.
It fit. Right.
Yeah. It was goofy, but it was fun.
Yeah. And yeah, just everything about it other than the wholeness of the story, which is a good lesson on, tighten that shit up. Do what I said. Write your thing 1 to 1 to 1. One character, one obstacle or interaction, and one purpose. Write it like that. And you're not going to get 120 pages, right? Because, unless the movie is specifically about, like the Robert Redford movie where he's on the sailboat.
Right.
It's just him, a little bit in the beginning on a flashback here and there, but it's just him. You better get 120 pages or no one's going to want to make that movie, right? Mm-hmm. When you're doing it this way, you might get, 40, 50, 60, but at least you've got something. And then when you start adding elements in, it's going to push those pages out as other characters have dialogue and interact and all those things. But oh my God, if that's what you need to do, please do it. The whole thing of making a script is you write a script with the sole intention of rewriting it. That's the first step. Yeah. Get it on paper and know that it's shit enough that you're going to have to go at it again and then again and again and then maybe again and again.
I've one final piece of advice that I took away from this movie.
Sure.
Make your names consistent and understandable and stop fucking changing them throughout the movie. And if you call someone a name, call them that name throughout the movie. Or if it was Dasha, Dash is a good, we get that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a natural shortening of that name. But Jesus, even Hetfield, who it is written in the beginning, Hetfield, and then they sometimes call him Hetfield and sometimes call him Hatfield. And because you call him Hatfield.
Yeah.
But it was very well,
here's an interesting bit of trivia for you. So Dasha.
Yeah.
That's actually her name.
Oh.
I would like to say, folks, stop doing that. Stop doing it. And as an actor, don't ever take a role that, his name is your name.
Yeah.
Seriously. Because here's why. I'm going to tell you why. There have been, in the past, a lot of mockery bits done about actors who only ever take parts that the character's name is their name, because otherwise they'll forget.
Yeah, that's pretty
who they are. Well, but see, it's true. And that's why there was mocking of certain people for doing that. I'm not going to put it out there, but there are actors, if you look at their body of work, in such and such movie as John, in such and such movie as John, in such and such movie as John.
Shocker.
Yeah, not Johnny, not Jonathan, always John, because their fucking name is John. It's a real thing. There's some people who can't fucking respond to other names.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I think that's like the number one thing to do as an actor is to,
Yeah, I don't think I could play a character that had the same name as me unless it was like a fictionalized version of me. And even that would be kind of weird. But like when we're playing D&D, that is how I separate the like we're role playing and we're having a personal discussion, right? Mm-hmm. When you are like, okay, Biscuit, what are you doing?
Okay, I'm going to mention a name.
Okay.
Tony Danza.
Oh, yeah. Tony Danza.
Tony Danza plays Tony in Taxi, plays Tony on, can't remember the name of the show. The one where he's like the house boy to
sure. I know what you're talking
about. The power thing. Yeah. Anyway. And some other stuff. And he plays Tony, the whatever. Don't do it. And, writers don't do it. Directors don't do it. Change the name of the damn character.
Right.
If it's a coincidence, you got a character named John and some guy named John shows up for auditions and you're like, fuck me, this guy's brilliant. Okay. Change the name to John. Unless the name is like 50% or more of the plot.
Right. Somehow.
Yeah. Don't do it. Or the title doesn't work with a different name. Well, they come up with a whole different kind of title. But anyway.
Yeah.
Or unless it's a biopic. I don't think if they find a man named Martin to play Martin Luther King, anything should change. Right?
Right.
That's just a happy coincidence, and we'll run with it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. I will call it a good film that suffers a critical disability.
Okay.
In the story.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm glad we talked this out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want, these people hear this. I don't want them to think we're shitting on like everything as a whole.
Right.
And if, if Mr. McJames is upset and pissed off that we don't like the story, I can't help that.
That's true.
I don't fucking like tomatoes either. So if you're a tomato grower, I just shut the fuck up. I don't like tomatoes. Get over it. Let's move on. Right. It's not personal. I didn't like it. I liked elements of it, but I still have no idea what this movie was about as a whole.
I'll tell you what it was about. Listen.
Okay.
An inquisitive.
Oh, God, you're the worst. Oh, man. You don't know this. So at this moment, right now, because today is October 23rd. So listeners, this will all been obviously passed again. Shriekfest is going on in Orlando, Florida. Horror convention. Okay. And my buddy Kenny, guy from Channel of the Living Dead. All right. Love Kenny. He is there doing some stuff. And he's been DMing me, go and see this, going to do that. And I said, well, you need to go see David Howard Thornton.
Yeah.
And if you can remember, say hi to us, just kind of like a fun thing. Well, he fucking did last night.
Oh.
And David said hi back. And he said that David went on for like 10 minutes about us.
Stop it.
Yeah. So Art the Clown.
I loved it.
Yeah, he's there. Kenny got to see him and do the whole thing. Yeah, and I just say hi to him and tell him, we wish we could be there because we're still one day we're gonna, meet.
Yeah.
And everything. But yeah, David was like, yeah, why? This and that. And yeah. So cool stuff.
Aww.
Interestingly enough, David Howard Thornton was Kenny's first interview.
That's really cool.
And Kenny said it went terrible. I heard it. He said it went terrible. It didn't go terrible. He just didn't quite know what to do.
Well,
but it was still fun.
Our first interview with Anton is, I think, our most awkward interview.
It is. But yeah, I went back and forth with Kenny about this. Said, you know what, though? That first interview is the one that sticks to your brain like with glue.
Yeah.
Right? Everything else could be better or worse or whatever, but nothing will hold that top spot. Because you're like, that first interview, you're like, oh my God, somebody wants to fucking talk to me on my rinky dink little show. Don't know me from Adam. And then you talk to dozens of other people like we have. But Anton and Carl.
Oh, they have a special place right here.
Will, always be.
Yeah.
Right there, above everything else. Because you always remember that first one as fucking great or bad or awkward or whatever it was. Because it was the first one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was awesome that, that was his first and he got to do it. So, yeah. Shriekfest is, horror conventions are, a lot of these things are still going on.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what's going to be, from day to day, we don't know. Things get worse, get better, get worse, get better. If you're going to go to these things, folks, be smart, wear masks, get vaccinated, keep your social distancing, but live your passion as best as you can. Go, if you're just passionate about horror, then go. You can swing the money and the time and you can get off work, whatever you need to do. Go to these things.
Yeah.
If you're a creative, go do all the stuff that, meet your other creatives there. Meet the people who are, the reason they're there is because they're in film, right?
Yes.
So meet them, talk with them, go to panels, try to strike up a conversation. Don't ever be afraid that, this person is, like David will sit and engage with you unless he's like absolutely has to be doing something.
Well, most people will.
Yeah.
I think people forget that, celebrities and people are just people.
Right. But when you deal with like Bruce Campbell,
yeah,
he's an A-lister. He's How I Made My Life as a B movie,
Yeah.
But he's an A-lister because he is just like the shit, right? He has as many layers as every other A-lister. You get someone like that, like we had our picture taken with him. I was under no, and we had him sign our script. I was not under any illusion that we could sit there for 10 minutes and talk.
Right.
At any point. Because when he's not out doing the shit, he's got a bunch of other stuff going.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about B-movie people and indie filmmakers. They're not really pressed for time every day. These other folks, they've got 5-6 movie deals in the works. They've got agents and managers from all over the place doing shit. They have things they got to do, things they got to see, phone calls they got to make when they're not on the floor and all that. So those expectations, I would say, yeah, don't really try to push it. Respect that they got a lot of shit going.
Sure.
But those of lesser creators, those of us who are not burdened by the business aspect of actually making money at our craft.
Or making tons of it.
Yeah.
At least.
Always try to have a conversation because you don't know. You might learn something. You might click and make a friend that, 30 years from now, you'd be like, yeah, that one day, man. Glad that happened because, otherwise we would have never met and,
yeah,
all this stuff. Anyway.
Well, with all of that, go check out our website.
See, I still don't know.
www.lords. Hey, I'm trying to say the website here. www.lordsandmisrollproductions.com.
Everything is there. We're just going to leave it at that. Everything's there. Like, share, rate, review, all those things. With the videos on our channels, with the podcast on the platforms and all that stuff, please, that's the thing. Subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe to us.
Email us,
reach out, check out our Patreon.
All that stuff.
Yeah. Social media, check everybody out.
Okay. I'll do that. I will. I promise.
Okay. There's just some fantastic people in our roster of followers and following. And I think people would enjoy making some connections if possible.
Cool.
With those folks. Oh. And we're coming up on the holidays, which also means the end of the year spectacular.
Yeah, we gotta figure out what to do for a retrospective this year.
I know.
And we gotta find a Santa slasher for that one holiday.
Yeah. Well, more importantly, I need to make sure that I put it in the slot so it shows we can record it and it will release it near that particular holiday.
Yeah, so we don't miss it.
And not like Easter.
Sure.
So
I can watch a Santa slasher for Easter.
All right. B-siders, be safe, create, do your stuff. Winter's coming. Most of the country, that's kind of a shit season. Hole up and write, create if you can, film, whatever. But
we live in Wisconsin. Hibernation officially begins in a few weeks.
The first fucking snowflake.
Yeah.
Yep. And then ends who knows when. So anyway, yeah, do your stuff. Make your contacts, reach out to people, collaborate. Zoom, man, you can be right there, face to face, through a screen. Collaborate on stories. Take your time and use it wisely.
Yeah.
Because we want to see what you can do.
Yeah.
But until next week.
This is Danny.
And this is Jim.
And we'll catch you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.